We're being questioned and criticized by people who do nothing. And that's why I'm so tight-lipped on it, because I'm like, I don't owe you no answers. On top of the fact you never donated, on top of the fact you never drove by there and picked up a piece of trash, you questioning something that you don't support financially, you questioning something that you've never been a part of in your entire life. You've never been a part of anything that progressive as building an institution. So why are you expecting me to be accountable to you?
Dr. Umar Johnson hasn't appeared on any podcasts for quite some time, and recently, rumors have surfaced suggesting that many platforms are hesitant to feature him. Some even claim that producers are intentionally steering clear of him. However, the Danza Project seems to be pushing back against that narrative. The Danza Project is a well-known podcast centered on hip-hop, Black culture, and urban issues. The team recently invited Dr. Umar for an interview, which they recorded last week. Acknowledging the public's curiosity, whether to hear his insights or critique his actions, they decided to release a 16-minute preview clip before the full interview, which is expected to run between 45 minutes to an hour and will premiere on Wednesday. Here's where things start to get more intriguing. Right from the start, Danza didn't hold back. He raised a question many have been asking for years. What exactly is Dr. Umar doing in terms of real, tangible work? Danza voiced his frustration with the general claims that Umar is doing the work, explaining that most of what he's seen involves speeches and public appearances, rather than direct engagement with children or active community service. He continued pressing the issue, asking specifically, which children is he working with? What community projects is he a part of? Danza urged listeners to stop repeating claims without concrete proof, arguing that doing so only damages Umar's credibility. What made this exchange notable was how Danza framed his challenge. It wasn't merely an attack, it was a demand for accountability. That tone set the foundation for the rest of the conversation, signaling that this interview would be more about transparency than controversy.
And when I mean working, you're doing a lot more than most.
Yes, sir.
Right? Like,
yes,
it's
sir.
not just the conversations that you're having on podcasts. It's the works that you're doing in the communities.
Right.
The conversations that you're having with the youth and with people in general. Mm-hmm. Where are you at mentally right now? How do you feel?
When asked about his current mental state, most people would expect a calm and reflective response. Something like, I'm doing well. I make time to rest, focus on family, keep up with daily prayer, stay active by running or lifting weights, and try new hobbies to keep my mind steady. That's the kind of thoughtful answer you'd normally hear. One that shows awareness and balance, especially considering the stress that comes with his public life. But Umar's reaction was quite different. To be fair, the Danza Project deserves credit for asking such an important question, yet Umar's response came across as dismissive, almost like he wasn't taking it seriously. It felt more like he was performing for the audience than offering genuine insight into his mindset.
I guess for me, the one thing that I just want to finalize is the renovations on the FDMG Academy. You know, we've been almost done for so long, and now we're at the floors, but I'm still scared to say we done, because every time I say we done, something else comes up. So, you know, I ain't been saying nothing. My thing is, when it's done.
Still, what does that have to do with your mental health? I understand you're working, though that term seems flexible in this case. But what exactly are you doing to manage your emotional and mental balance? What steps are you taking to stay centered and grounded?
That's when I'll announce it. You know what I mean? I was supposed to go back to the Breakfast Club, and I text Charlamagne. I said, I'm not coming back up there one more time to tell people we almost done. You feel me?
Yeah.
When we done, I'll schedule with you. I'm not going up to Power 105 again until we done. I'm tired of saying it myself.
Absolutely.
You know?
But that wasn't the question being asked. The question was about you, how you're feeling, and where you stand mentally. It wasn't about the school or your ongoing projects. It was about your personal well-being. And this highlights a recurring pattern with Umar. He often redirects discussions back to familiar talking points. For instance, he never misses an opportunity to mention his past text exchange with Charlamagne, or how he turned down an appearance on Power 105. It's become almost habitual. He repeatedly references the same line about messaging Charlamagne, the phony false god, as a reminder of that refusal. It's unclear whether he does this because it's one of the few interactions he's proud of, or because it fits neatly into his ongoing narrative. But either way, it's something he consistently returns to. Let's see how he chooses to bring it up this time.
But I mean, so when we done, that's when I'll do it, man. But we real close. When I fly back home tomorrow, I got to get to the school. They laying the floors now, and
But here's what caught my attention. In his most recent video filmed inside the building, Umar talked about making shirts with the phrase "where the school's at" and gave viewers a quick tour of the space. But noticeably, he never showed the floors. That seemed unusual. If the flooring was supposedly being installed, why not display the results? This naturally raises a larger question. Where did the money for the flooring come from? Strangely, no one has followed up on that point. None of Umar's supporters have publicly asked, when were your bank accounts unfrozen? It's important to recall that his accounts were reportedly frozen for a period of time, limiting his access to funds. Then, without explanation, construction activity resumed and money appeared to be available again. It's worth noting. It gives the impression that he's moving forward without addressing the details many people are still curious about.
once that's done, we'd be applying for our certificate of occupancy. That's going to be interesting because the city has not been our friend. They tried to sell the school behind our back last month for some frivolous expenses that we should not have even owed.
Let's take a pause here. And while some may not agree with this point, it's something that needs to be said. Dr. Umar Johnson has a recurring habit of creating imaginary barriers that limit his own progress. For instance, he often claims he can only hire teachers who meet certain arbitrary standards, or that he can't open his school until he's married to 2 queens. He repeatedly sets these unrealistic, self-imposed conditions, and then uses them as explanations for why things aren't moving forward. Another example is his insistence on hiring only Black contractors who are willing to work for free, which simply isn't practical. Now, notice what he says about the certificate of occupancy. It already sounds like he's preparing an explanation for why it supposedly can't be obtained. Based on his usual pattern, once the floors are finally completed, he'll likely say the certificate wasn't approved, and somehow the blame will fall on Delaware, rather than acknowledging that the building still isn't ready. Pay close attention to how he presents this, because it really seems like he's laying the groundwork for that excuse.
When I fly back home tomorrow, I got to get to the school. They laying the floors now, and once that's done, we'd be applying for our certificate of occupancy. That's going to be interesting because the city has not been our friend. They tried to sell the school behind our back last month for some frivolous expenses that we should not have even owed. So I'm gonna stay positive, but I'm not looking forward to the inspection because, you know, they can nitpick you to death on that.
Absolutely.
You know, so when people say when you're going to actually be done, that's not in our hands. We have to see what the city says, you know, but I'm hoping after all we've been through, they just say, go ahead. If it's all in order, just passing, you know, but that hasn't been the experience. Like everything we've been through with the city has been a fight. You know, even to get a permit for the festival, they ain't want to give us that, you know, so it's really been a tug of war with them. I'm just hoping that we don't have to have a protest. I'm hoping we don't have to take them to court for discrimination. I mean, the bureaucracy is mostly Black. The mayor's white, but the bureaucracy is Black. But discrimination is discrimination, even if you're the same color, you know. So I'm just, you know, I'm going to just put it in the Lord's hands and see. But we knocking on the finish line, so if all goes well, we should be able to apply for the inspection before the end of the year.
All right, so here's what's happening. He's already preparing everyone for the outcome that nothing is actually going to move forward. He's setting the stage in advance. He's saying things like, we applied for the certificate of occupancy, but they're going to nitpick everything. That's his way of lowering expectations and shifting blame before anything even happens. But the truth is, we already know the condition of those buildings. They're not ready for occupancy, and they're clearly in poor shape. This isn't about nitpicking, it's about the fact that the facilities simply aren't up to standard.
That most people don't understand in general. Just starting a business is tough, right? And then when you're doing something in the community, it's going to be a lot tougher. When you're dealing with that much square footage, they could find something wrong anywhere. Oh, well, in this corner here. But a lot of people that have never started a business, you know, have never gotten any type of education, what it's like. They have no idea.
Never opened a school, never ran a school, but they're experts in our school.
Let's be honest here. Dr. Umar Johnson hasn't opened or operated a school, and his expertise doesn't extend beyond public speaking. That's the plain reality. And that's what makes all of this so concerning, because he continues to present himself as an authority in fields where he lacks practical experience. He hasn't been involved in tutoring, weekend programs, or summer enrichment sessions, all of which he could have easily organized over the years. Even if, by some unlikely scenario, he manages to secure the certificate of occupancy. What then? The current school year is already in progress. Does he really expect parents to withdraw their children mid-year just to enroll them in his program? He's mentioned the possibility of getting approval by the end of the year, perhaps around January, but even if he does, who would transfer their child to a new, untested school for only a few months before spring break? At best, that would mean 10 to 12 weeks of classes. Then, summer arrives and the entire schedule resets. Beyond that, he still needs to hire staff, establish a curriculum, arrange meals, and set up day-to-day operations. It simply doesn't seem feasible. At this stage, it might be time to stop pretending, because the evidence suggests this school project isn't moving forward in any meaningful way.
You know, and I don't get into it, but I hear a lot of it because my supporters send me the clips, and I've heard ridiculous things. I heard people say you can get an HVAC for $5,000. That's a $50,000 unit up there, and that was the cheap one. You feel me?
Yeah.
This is not a house. This is a school. You're not getting no HVAC for.
He's been talking about that HVAC system for 6 years now. In fact, he's brought it up repeatedly over the years. It's surprising how he seems to lose track of his own timeline. Now suddenly, it's back to being about a $5,000 HVAC unit, as if this is some new issue. To be clear, $5,000 is a significant cost, but let's not forget, this topic has been circulating for nearly a decade. At some point, the repetition stops being an update and starts sounding like the same recycled talking point.
Grand, you know what I mean? Every utility that we had repaired, plumbing, HVAC, electric, every one cost us well over $100,000. Nothing was under $100K for repair. So when I hear people say he could have got this done for $5,000, you don't know
how much progress has really been made. Because based on that statement alone, if someone were to say to Umar, show the receipts for those expenses and I'll reimburse the full amount, could he actually produce them? He claims the electrical work alone cost more than $100,000. If that's the case, where's the proof? A receipt, an invoice, or documentation from a licensed contractor would settle the question instantly. And remember, during his appearance on The Breakfast Club, he stated that the school had already been renovated and valued it as a $13 million project. If that's accurate, he should be able to show records verifying what's been completed. The challenge is simple. If the proof exists, present it. But the real question remains, could he provide legitimate receipts? Based on his track record, that seems highly doubtful.
what you talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a whole nother level. But my thing is, if you never did it, why are you speaking on it? And if you're not doing it,
You simply haven't done it. And that's just the truth. To be clear, this isn't said with hostility. In fact, it's said with a level of respect, because there's genuine appreciation for the man himself. But there's also some sympathy for the Danza Project. They're a growing, respectable platform, genuinely trying to host engaging guests and gain more exposure for their show. There's nothing wrong with that. They deserve credit for their effort. Still, the reality is that Umar continues to make statements that don't align with the facts. Danza asked him a straightforward, fair question. What have you actually accomplished? And that's where the issue lies. There's no visible progress, no measurable success, just confident talk with nothing concrete behind it. So, the central question remains: what evidence exists that he's achieved what he claims? What proof supports his repeated promises beyond speeches and slogans? Because right now, it's all words, and people are still waiting for something real to back them up.
for the people while you speaking on it. See, that's my thing. I don't think people who don't do work could criticize people who do work. Now, if you doing the work, you say, look, I built me a relevant institution. You can speak to it because you did it.
This narrative can't go unchallenged any longer. It's time for people to start holding him accountable. If you're among Umar's supporters, you should be asking the key question: where is the evidence? He repeatedly insists that he's building institutions, but the reality is that there isn't one. What exists are 2 vacant buildings, not active schools or functioning programs. So, again, sir, what institutions have actually been built? It's time to stop deflecting and provide a direct answer. The problem is that no one in his circle ever presses him on this point. No one asks the essential follow-up: Umar, what have you truly accomplished? Meanwhile, the Danza Project, the very platform that gave him space to speak, has achieved more in a shorter time. They've built something functional, visible, and growing. They shouldn't minimize their own success in comparison to empty claims.
We're being questioned and criticized by people who do nothing. And that's why I'm so tight-lipped on it, because I'm like, I don't owe you no answers. On top of the fact you never donated, on top of the fact you never drove by there and picked up a piece of trash, you questioning something that you don't support financially, you questioning something that you've never been a part of in your entire life. You've never been a part of anything that progressive as building an institution. So why are you expecting me to be accountable to you?
Why isn't there accountability toward his donors? That's the real question. And perhaps an even more important one. Why aren't the donors themselves demanding answers? It's fine if he chooses not to answer critics directly. That's not the issue. But when it comes to the people who financially supported this project, there should be transparency. It's only fair to keep them informed about where their contributions are going. These donors should be his strongest allies, the ones promoting his work, drawing new supporters, and helping expand his mission. Yet, he doesn't seem to engage with them, update them, or even acknowledge their role in keeping his project afloat. That lack of communication raises real concerns about accountability and trust.
Keep it together. Back to that mental health thing. Like, how do you feel?
I'm going to be honest with you. The haters, the struggle streamers.
It's surprising that he has the nerve to label someone a struggle streamer, while he himself constantly asks for Cash App and PayPal donations. The irony couldn't be clearer. Please send something through Cash App. Please, PayPal, please. That's his frequent tone, continually requesting money, yet somehow mocking others for doing the same. At this point, it's hard not to call it what it is. He's criticizing others for struggling while streaming from his car, which, ironically, is the best setup he's had in months. Most of the time, he's using an outdated phone sitting outside that same abandoned building, calling it progress. It's time to stop the pretense. The contradiction is too blatant to ignore.
They really helped toughen me up to the criticism, because we've been dealing with it from the first day we took a donation in St. Louis, Missouri, April of 2014.
Just stop and think about this for a moment. Dr. Umar Johnson has been collecting donations for years. And even if we use the most generous estimate, starting from 2014, that's 11 years. 11 years of fundraising, and yet there's still nothing to show for it. No functioning classrooms, not even a small preschool. There's no after-school program, no summer camp, no Saturday tutoring, nothing at all. So the question stands, what exactly has been done with all that time and money? And to his supporters, this needs to be said. Why continue allowing this to happen? Why let someone keep making promises that never lead to visible results? Is it genuine faith in his mission, or just a desperate hope to believe in something even when the evidence isn't there? Honestly, I can't wait for the full interview to release because it deserves a proper breakdown. We'll go through every part of it. Right now, he claims that the haters are what motivate him. But the truth is, genuine work should be the real source of strength. If he were actively doing something productive, running a Saturday program, organizing tutoring sessions, or starting even the smallest educational effort, there wouldn't be so many critics. At this point, even something as simple as a community book club would be a step forward. Call it the Umar Johnson Abandoned Building and Used Tire Book Club if needed. But at least it would be progress. Just take action in any form.
St. Paul's College in Virginia went up for sale because that's what we wanted. We wanted that HBCU, but they wanted $2 million and we couldn't raise it in time, so they sold it to the Asians who currently have it now. So then that's when we said, well, we just gonna find us a regular school. So from 2014 till 2019, we school hunted. We found FDMG in 2017, but we couldn't afford it at the time. So we just stayed in negotiations with the owners, and then finally, February 2019, they gave it to us. So 5 years to find a school, which in my opinion, that's not a long time to raise the money and find it. 5 years ain't bad at all. And then you go from 19 to 25, right? So you're looking at 6 years of us renovating. It should have only taken us 2 or 3, but there was a lot of scamming going on with the contractors we were using. We really got done dirty by them. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to use Caucasian work.
It's almost like he's living out his own version of a series of unfortunate events. Every time something goes wrong in Dr. Umar Johnson's story, he becomes the victim. It's never his fault. Someone's always trying to scam him. Someone's hacking his Cash App. Someone's freezing his bank accounts. someone's blocking his path. It happens with such consistency that it's become predictable. Every setback, every delay, every obstacle has a villain. But somehow, that villain is never Umar himself. He never admits, maybe I didn't manage my funds properly, or I hired the wrong contractors. Instead, the blame always shifts outward. According to him, nearly every black contractor in Delaware, electricians, painters, plumbers, HVAC workers, even lawn care crews, are dishonest. But realistically, when the same issues happen over and over again, the pattern speaks for itself. At some point, it's no longer believable that everyone else is at fault, and as expected, when the city eventually refuses to issue that certificate of occupancy, he'll likely claim it's another attack. The narrative will be that Delaware is targeting him or blocking black progress. He might even call for a protest or boycott, framing it as yet another injustice. But the truth seems simpler. He reached out to the county first so that, when things fell apart, he could already have his next scapegoat lined up, because deep down, he knows that building was never fully ready. Everyone can see it, the structure's deteriorating, and instead of addressing those issues directly, he continues to shift the blame elsewhere.
Because I wanted to keep the money in the community. The people who gave us the money black. I want to keep the project black. Right. But I had to wake up one day and say, yo, if you're waiting on your people to do this for you, it may not get done. And let me put that in context. You're talking about the second smallest state in the country, right? So you don't have much to pull from anyway. And then the city of Wilmington requires that your contractors be licensed in the state and licensed in the city. Mm-hmm. So for example, in Pennsylvania, if you're licensed by the Commonwealth, you can do work anywhere in the state. You got to be licensed in Delaware and then licensed again in Wilmington. Mm. You're already dealing with a small pool of available contractors, and then they add that on top. So I say it all the time. We have the best situation in the worst location. Mm. And when I say worst location.
And that's where things really start getting wild. Because when Dr. Umar begins labeling licensed professionals as scammers, it doesn't just sound like another lazy excuse, it becomes downright disrespectful. Think about it for a second. These men and women went through the training, the testing, and all the paperwork required to become licensed contractors in the state of Delaware, and then went the extra mile to get approved in the city of Wilmington. That's years of effort, dedication, and money. But in Umar's version of reality, they're all con artists. Electricians, scammers, painters, scammers, carpenters, scammers, floor guys, scammers. Apparently everybody's corrupt, except Dr. Umar Johnson. In his story, he's the only honest man left standing, the lone savior of black education, the heroic figure building institutions for the people. But let's just call it what it really is. You can't keep failing over and over, blaming every single person you work with, and expect people to believe you're not part of the problem. Because at some point, when every situation falls apart, maybe the common denominator isn't them. Maybe it's you.
I'm simply speaking of the limited pool of resources in terms of contractors and the strict stipulations that are required for you to work on a project there. You know, if that same school was in Detroit, Chicago, Philly, we'd be done already. Only because you got so many plumbers, you got so many HVAC.
And here's where the inconsistencies start to pile up. Umar once said the building was already renovated, ready to open, as he proudly told Charlemagne and Fawn Falls on the Breakfast Club. He even thanked God for it. So now the question becomes, if the school was supposedly finished back then, why is he suddenly saying all this new work needs to be done? Let's not forget, he once mentioned a $13 million renovation, calling it state-of-the-art. Maybe Jason, the editor, can even drop in that clip where he bragged about how advanced the building was. So what exactly changed? Because now, it feels like there are only a few possibilities. Either Umar wasn't being truthful back then, or he's not being honest now. Or maybe, just maybe, he's been inconsistent with everyone from the start. Either way, the story doesn't line up.
So many elections, you could go through 30 of them until you hit the right one. But you in the second smallest state, only a handful of black folks, you know what I mean? Yeah. Contractors that you can really, go to. And everybody we used came highly recommended, by the way. We didn't just grab people. These were people said, get him, get them. We got the people we were told to get, and they still didn't do us right.
Credit where it's due. Shout out to the Danza Project. They clearly tried their best, and that deserves respect because creating content isn't easy. The effort, the planning, the long hours, it's real work. But let's be honest, Umar Johnson isn't the opportunity they probably thought he was. If anything, he's the kind of guest who brings chaos instead of clarity.
Small, when and the competition isn't great, it's tough, you know.
And we ran into situations where sometimes if I don't take the plumber, the electrician say I can't take the job. You feel me? Because that's my man. Right. So since you're not taking him, I can't do it. I'm like, damn, what that got to do with you? I need this, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of that where I like the electrician, don't like the plumber. I like the HVAC guy, don't like the electrician. So, you know, it's networks.
Yeah.
You know, and you're dealing with a really small city and you an outsider coming from Philly. I had to deal with some of that too. You know what I mean? Because even though I get a lot of love
and this just proves the point. Everything around Dr. Umar turns into a series of unfortunate events. There's always a fresh excuse, a new conspiracy, another villain to blame. Now it's the painter and the electrician supposedly working together against him. Every time, it's somebody else's fault, never his. At what point does accountability enter the conversation? All people really want to hear is something simple. I made mistakes. I didn't manage things right. Let's fix it. That's it. But instead, we keep hearing the same loop of excuses over and over again. And what makes it even more confusing is that, by his own words, the project should already be done. The floors are being laid this weekend, right? So what's left to delay? Where's the celebration of progress? Because at this point, the only thing holding this project back might not be the contractors, the city, or the haters. It might just be Dr. Umar Johnson himself.